Woke Kathleen Kennedy humiliated after ruining Star Wars. Okay. Now, as all of you know, the news that Kathleen Kennedy is reportedly on her way out at Lucasfilm right now. Now, I know the famous song goes Ding Dong, the witch is dead, but let's be real. That's not exactly what's happening here. Still, Kathleen Kennedy's legacy is definitely in utter ruins, and no matter how hard they try, not even the industry trades can cover that up. Now, Kathleen Kennedy's time at Lucasfilm is coming to an end, and that spells big news for Star Wars and Disney. Okay, and you know what? Let's be real. Hollywood types still chant that Kathleen Kennedy is one of the greatest producers of all time, maybe even the greatest. But let's be honest, even the loudest video voices don't really believe that anymore. Okay, now Kathleen Kennedy's reputation was simply built on movies from the 80s. I mean, funny enough, those films were produced by her husband, Frank Marshall, and they were either directed or produced by Steven Spielberg or even George Lucas. Now, Kathleen Kennedy was just along for the ride and stuff, collecting credit for the different successes that weren't really hers in the first place. But when Kathleen Kennedy got the reins at Lucasfilm and stuff back in 2012, everything changed and not for the better. But guess what? Don't forget that under Kathleen Kennedy's leadership, Lucasfilm oversaw what's arguably the biggest collapse in entertainment history. And a huge part of that collapse was Star Wars. Now, Kennedy's handling of Star Wars simply did massive damage and stuff, not just to the brand, but to Disney as a whole. Now, Star Wars was once the crown jewel of pop culture, but under Kathleen Kennedy, it became a divisive, fractured brand that alienated its own fan base. I'd even go as far as to say that Star Wars under Kennedy played a bigger role in sinking Disney Plus than Marvel ever did. Now, millions have walked away from streaming, and Star Wars decline under Kennedy's leadership is, well, basically the big reason why. And that's not saying much right there. So, basically, what's the latest? According to the Puck article, as you all heard of, Kennedy is stepping down as Lucasfilm president after 13 years. And honestly, good riddance. Now, during her tenure, Kathleen Kennedy managed to destroy not just the Star Wars brand, but also Indiana Jones and Willow. That's three major franchises that Kennedy ran into the ground, all under Disney's watch. Now, Willow might not be a huge loss, but for most folks, I mean, but it's worth noting that the revival, which was more about girl bosses than Willow himself, was simply pulled from Disney Plus and will never be seen again. Now, Kathleen Kennedy's decisions were so bad that even pirates and stuff didn't want to watch that mess. They didn't want to polish it, pirate it, or bootleg it. But here's the thing: how the industry is framing Kennedy's departure matters, and the narrative around Kathleen Kennedy is simply being carefully crafted because Disney and woke Hollywood don't want to admit just how disastrous her tenure at Lucasfilm has been. Now, the coverage is giving Kennedy some credit while simply quietly admitting the truth about Star Wars, Lucasfilm, and Disney's failures. Okay. Now, take the Hollywood Reporter, the woke Hollywood Reporter, for example. They mentioned Kennedy took over Lucasfilm in 2012 after Disney bought it for $4 billion. They even call it her run mixed. Mixed? I mean, that's generous. They credit Kennedy with relaunching Star Wars with The Force Awakens, which made over $2 billion, but they also admit that just 4 years later, The Rise of Skywalker made half of that. Think about it. If you start at $2 billion, the final movie in the trilogy should be making $2.5 billion or even $3 billion, not half. Now, Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars should have been a guaranteed success, but guess what? It wasn't. And that didn't really stop there. You see, under Kathleen Kennedy's leadership, the movie Solo, a Star Wars story, became the first Star Wars movie to lose money at the box office. Now, Kennedy fired the directors in the middle of the production, and the result was simply a disaster. But trust me, it won't be the last Star Wars movie to flop if Kathleen Kennedy and her influence lingers. And then there's also Rogue One, where Kathleen Kennedy simply just sidelined the director and brought in Tony Gilroy for reshoots. Sure, it made $1 billion, but chaos behind the scenes was a sign of things to come. Okay. And that's nothing surprising right there. But other than that, Kennedy's mismanagement didn't stop with the movies. Star Wars on Disney Plus has been a disaster too. The Mandalorian started strong with the first two seasons, but then the spin-offs under Kennedy's leadership underperformed. And even season 3 of The Mandalorian was a letdown, not to mention the controversy with Gina Carano, which divided the fan base and set the stage for a nasty lawsuit. Now, Kennedy's decision to fire Gina Carano not only derailed Jon Favreau's plans, but also angered loyal Star Wars fans. Okay? I should remember, I'm one of them. But the Hollywood Reporter tries to find some positives by talking about Kennedy's work on movies from the 80s that includes E.T., The Goonies, Back to the Future. But if you read it yourself, you notice something different. They mention that stuff at the very end because they know that those successes weren't really Kennedy's. You see, she was just simply going for the ride. The only project that Kennedy truly led was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, and that was a spectacular flop. Now, Kennedy's leadership turned Indiana Jones from a beloved franchise into a box office disaster. And we all remember that. Even James Mangold lied about it, and we saw right through those lies. But when you get down to it, Kathleen Kennedy's legacy isn't the movies that she tagged along for, it's the meme. Put a chick in it, make her gay. That's what Kennedy will be remembered for. Simply pushing woke activism over storytelling and also hiring people who can easily be controlled who are more about ideology than talent. And the result, creative and financial disaster. Because of Kathleen Kennedy's decisions, Disney still hasn't made back the $4 billion that they spent on Lucasfilm. And honestly, Star Wars and Indiana Jones will never be what they once were before. And that's saying a lot right there. But let's be honest. At this point, Kennedy might as well have stayed on. She's already left Lucasfilm in a smoking ruin. There's nothing left to burn. And who knows if anything can be rebuilt from the ashes of Star Wars under Kennedy's disastrous leadership. I mean, it's going to be hard to determine. But Disney is left holding the pieces of Star Wars in Indiana Jones and Willow, all thanks to Kathleen Kennedy and her poor choices. Okay. So, as you all know, this is simply the end of an era, not just for Kathleen Kennedy, but for Lucasfilm, for Star Wars, and even Disney. Now, Star Wars fans once hoped that Kathleen Kennedy would respect George Lucas's vision, but instead, she tore it apart. Now, Disney is stuck trying to pick up the pieces of Star Wars, and Kathleen Kennedy's legacy, if you want to call it that, is tied to that particular failure. Now, Kathleen Kennedy simply wanted to be remembered as, one of the greatest producers of all time. Instead, she'll be remembered as the woman who destroyed Star Wars. Now, under Kathleen Kennedy's watch, Disney Star Wars became nothing more than divisive, joyless, and even unrecognizable. And that's the unfortunate part. Star Wars was supposed to be the franchise that carried Disney to success, but Kathleen Kennedy's decisions made sure that didn't happen. And you all remember my reaction to that, the whole thing. I was angry. Disney bet big on Kathleen Kennedy and lost. Now Disney is paying the price, and Star Wars fans are left wondering if the franchise can recover or the fact that it's just dead. But Kathleen Kennedy is stepping down. but the damage she did to Star Wars and Disney will be felt for years to come. Kind of like what Sauron did in Lord of the Rings. But that's just my take. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed or shared in this video, smash the like button, share the video far across social media, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, and I'll see you all next time. Until then, peace.